What if I told you that most students are missing the real reasons why they're not acing their science tests? Not because they didn't study hard enough or long enough. It's because they don't know the hidden skills that science tests are really checking for. Today, I'm breaking down the strategies top students use and revealing what science tests are really measuring. Ready for that? Here we go. So most students think science tests are about how many facts they can remember or cram. So they memorize definitions, study diagrams, maybe do some review problems, and hope for the best. But here's the truth. Science tests aren't just about what you know, they're about how you think. Students lose points in science because they can't apply a concept to a new situation. And that's exactly what science tests are often asking, especially as science courses become more advanced. If you've just memorized what you've done in class, these are the questions where you'll fall short. And not only that, simply knowing some facts will not help you in the next science course or in college, and certainly not in a career later on. So what are the hidden secrets? And by the way, they aren't really meant to be hidden, these secrets. They're just not what's emphasized in school, so it seems like that. So here are 4 key skills every science test is actually testing for that aren't really discussed deeply in class. 1, cause and effect reasoning. Can your teen explain why one thing leads to another? Like, why does increasing the temperature speed up a chemical reaction? 2, data interpretation. This involves charts, graphs, data tables, or reading passages. Can they pull out the right information and explain it clearly? 3, application of concepts. This is a big one. Can students take what they've learned and apply it to something they haven't seen before? This is one of the hardest parts of many science tests, but it can really set the successful students apart. And it's required more and more as you take more advanced science courses. 4, scientific explanation and vocabulary in context. This is about not just repeating a definition, but using it in a full, accurate explanation. Even if students don't have to construct a long explanation, they still need to fully understand the concept. Even if it's a multiple choice question, these will often have explanations included in the answer choices. So students need to be able to distinguish between those answer choices. For example, here's a recent question from a state chemistry test. Which statement explains the large amount of heat produced in a fission reaction? 1, chemical bonds are broken. 2, chemical bonds are formed. 3, energy is converted to mass. 4, mass is converted to energy. This multiple choice question doesn't ask what a fission reaction is. It asks for an explanation as to why there's a large amount of heat produced. If you've just memorized the term nuclear fission, but are unable to connect the parts of nuclear fission that relate to heat production, it will be difficult to get this question correct. But if you know how to construct an explanation from the terms you do know, you will be in a much better place to answer this question correctly. These are the secret skill checks built into nearly every test, and most students don't even know they're being tested on them. So how do you build those skills? Here's the secret. Practice science the way scientists actually use it. Don't just listen in science class, ask questions, even if it's just to yourself in your head. Don't just sit there during labs. Observe what's actually happening in the experiment. Don't be happy with just any answer. Think critically to make sure your answer makes sense. This is where Science Skills Accelerator makes a huge difference. In Science Skills Accelerator, students work through modules with content from science courses where those skills are modeled for them, and then they get to practice them for themselves using the science content. Students are not cramming, they're practicing thinking like scientists, and that's why it works. When students start doing this kind of work, something amazing happens. Science makes sense. They start seeing patterns. They know how to approach their test questions. Their confidence grows fast. Students go from confused and frustrated to clear and confident in just a few weeks. Not because they studied harder or longer, but because they learned smarter. So now you know the hidden secrets to acing science tests. Stop relying on memorization and start training your brain to think like a scientist. If you're ready to help your teen build the skills that actually matter and finally feel confident walking into science tests, join us inside Science Skills Accelerator today. Check out the link in the description below to learn more. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to check out the next video in the series where we dive into the ultimate guide to science study techniques. See you there.